I've been wanting to read this for a while. I felt like what better day to do it than Juneteenth, and it's my favorite weather to sit outside. Um, this came out of North Carolina Slave Narratives. There was a couple people that they had interviewed, those from Durham. This was one of the ladies, Mary Wallace Boyd. I don't even know how I ended up reading these slave narratives, but I was just so fascinated in, the lingo, the stories, and all of that. But this one particular story, for whatever reason, I don't even know how I got attached to this story. But once I started researching the people, and or it could have been after doing my family tree, the name popped up. I think that's what it was when I started doing my family tree. That Lilman Graves popped up, and I'm like, oh, I know that name. And when I kept doing the research, it was from this slave narrative. But I always thought it was cool. You read this different copies of it, you read, and they do the proper enunciation in words and stuff. But for me, it takes away from what we know of our people and how our people speak. They say certain things, and reading sentences. When you start doing your history, when you start reading some of the sentences, and you know your people name, and you look at how the way they spell them, like you understand. Like a lot of times it's spelled like it sounds, because most of them couldn't read and write. So whomever wrote it down like they were saying it, and the way most of us pronounce our words, they're not pronounced the proper way. So that's how a lot of the spellings get screwed all the way up. But anyway, this is Mary Wallace Boyd, ex-slave. She was 81 years old when she did this interview. My name is Mary Wallace Boyd. I was 9 years old at the surrender. My pappy and mammy is Susan and Lilman Graves. First belonged to Master Fountain and Miss Fanny Tuberville, and Master Fountain sold me, my mammy and my brother George, to Miss Fanny's sister, Miss Virginia Graves. Miss Virginia's husband was Master Dr. Graves. They lived on their old Elijah Graves estate, not far from Master Fountain's plantation here in Durham County. And Miss Virginia and Miss Fanny see each other near about every day. I was little when Master Fountain and Master Doctor went to the war, but I remembers it was because Miss Fanny stood on that porch, smiling and waving at Master Fountain till he went round the corner in the road, and then she fell on the floor like she was dead. I thought she was dead till Miss Virginia throwed some water on her face and she opened her eyes. The next day, Miss Virginia took her and a mammy, and we all went over and stayed with Miss Fanny because she was scared of their so-called company for each other. Mammy waited on Miss Virginia and helped Surella Taville, Miss Fanny's house girl, sweeping and making up the beds and things. I was little, but Mammy made me work. I shook the rugs, brung in the kennel, and ran around waiting on Miss Virginia and Miss Fanny, such as today, basket and keys, jangling the day, shawl and such at that. That was all the time, talking about the fellas fighting and what they would do if the Yankees came. Every time they talked, Miss Fanny set a twist in her hands and say, "What is we gonna do, sister? What is we gonna do?" Miss Fanny tried to pacify Miss Fanny. Miss Virginia tried to pacify Miss Fanny. She said, "Don't you worry none, honey. I'll fix these Yankees when they come." Then she sat her mouth. When she done that, I ran and hid behind Miss Fanny's chair, because I done seen Miss Virginia set her mouth before, and I know she meant business. I didn't have sense enough to be scared then, because I had never seen no Yankee soldiers. And 'twas long before I was scared. The Yankees came on one morning, and they ripped, and Lord, how did they rip. When they rolled up in the gates and come stomping to the house, Miss Fanny gone to crying, telling them something. Sister, tell them something, she told Miss Virginia. Miss Virginia, she ain't done no crying. When she see them Yankees coming across that hill, she ran round and got all the jewelry. She took off the rings and pins and her and Miss Fanny had on, and she got all the things out of the jewelry box and get them to Pappy. Hide them, Leland, she told Pappy. Hide them someplace where them thieves won't find them. Pappy had on high boots. He ain't do nothing but stuff all that jewelry right down in them boots. Then he strutted all across them Yankees, laughing to himself. They cussed when they couldn't find no jewelry at all. They didn't find no jewelry neither, cause us niggas done helped Miss Fanny and Miss Virginia hide that. We done toted it all down to the cotton gin house, hid it in the loose cotton piles on the floor. When they couldn't find nothing, a big soldier went up to Miss Virginia, who was standing in the hall. He looked at her and said, "You scared of me, ain't you?" Miss Virginia ain't bat no eye yet. She told him, if I were gonna be scared, I'd be scared of something. I sure ain't scared of no ugly bragging Yankee. The man turned around and he said, "If you don't tell me where you done hid all that silver, I was gonna make you scared." Mrs. Virginia's chin went up higher. She sat her mouth and looked at that soldier twirl. He dropped his eyes. Then she told him that some folks done came and got the silver, that they done toted it all off. She didn't tell him that it was us niggas that's done toted it down to the cotton gin house. In them days was peddlers going around in the countryside selling things. They toted big packs on their backs filled with everything from needles and thimbles to bedspreads and frying pans. One day a peddler stopped at Miss Fanny's house. He was the ugliest man I ever seen. He was tall and bony, wide black whiskers and a black bushy hair and curious eyes that sat way back in his head. They was dark and looked like a dog's eyes after he done been hit. He sat down on the porch, opened his pack, and it was so hot and he looked so tired that Miss Fanny gave him a cold drink of milk that done been setting in the spring house. At the time, Miss Fanny was looking at all the things in his pack and buying. The man kept up a running talk. He asked her how many niggas they had and how many men they had fighting on the federal side and what she was gonna do with the niggas was set free. Then he asked if he knowed Mr. Abraham Lincoln. About that time, Miss Virginia came to the door and heard what he said. She blazed up like a light wood fire and told that peddler that they didn't want to know nothing about no Mr. Lincoln, that they know too much already, and that his name wasn't loud called on that porch. Then she say he wasn't nothing but a black ball messing in other folk business, and that she'd shoot him on sight if she had half a chance. The man laughed. Maybe he ain't too bad, he told her. Then he packed his pack and went off the road, and Miss Virginia watched him till he went out of sight round the bend. 2 or 3 weeks later, Miss Fanny got a letter. The letter was from the peddler. He told her he was Abraham Lincoln himself, that he was peddling over the country as a spy, and he thanked her for the rest on her shady porch and that cool glass of milk that he gave her. When that letter came, Miss Virginia got so hopping mad that she took all that stuff Miss Fanny bought, that Miss Fanny done bought from Mr. Lincoln, and made us niggas burn it in the ash pile. Then she made Pappy rake up the ashes and throw them in the creek.